Alright boys, so today I have a new Titan build for you guys. I've really only been making Warlock builds, so I figured I would spice things up, switch up a little bit, and now I have a new Titan build for you. Now this is a pretty popular build, but I wanted to put my own little spin on it. We're talking about a Storm Grenade build with Heart of Inmost Light. This is a pretty popular combination, but again, I wanted to put my own little spin on it, and this build is really powerful. Like, I knew it was good, but I didn't think it was that good. Like, you can literally just carry entire Nightfalls. You can do solo content. In the gameplay you're seeing, I was actually in the legendary campaign by myself, just literally spamming storm grenades, and they do so much damage. So let's go ahead and jump right into this build. So for this build, I am using the Thruster class ability because it has the lowest cooldown out of all three class abilities, but I would recommend using the Barricade for higher end content. Now I'm also using the new Thunderclap melee ability because it's the easiest one to use. I don't have to sprint and then jump in the air for the ballistic slam, and I don't have to actually land an attack with the shoulder charge. I can just use the Thunderclap on nothing if I have to, which is really important for Heart of Inmost Light. It keeps that cycle going with the increased cooldown reduction and the increase in damage. Now I'm also using Storm Grenades. Now this is really important because Storm Grenades are absolutely juiced with the tracking and the increased duration because of Touch of Thunder. Now, speaking of Touch of Thunder, I'm using that paired with Knockout just because Knockout gives me 2 fragment slots, and so does Touch of Thunder. As for my fragments, I'm using Spark of Shock, Spark of Magnitude, Spark of Ions, and Spark of Discharge. Spark of Shock and Spark of Ions are a really good pair because Spark of Shock makes my arc grenades jolt enemies, and Spark of Ions allows me to generate an ionic trace after I defeat those jolted enemies. Spark of Magnitude will increase the duration of my Storm Grenade, and Spark of Discharge will allow me to generate even more ionic traces when I get Arc Weapon Final Blows. So since I'm going full send with the whole grenade spam with this build, I'm using 2 weapons with Demolitionist. I have my Deliverance and I have an Ikelos SMG. Now this is important because it's an arc weapon, which is going to allow me to spawn those ionic traces, which will feed back into my abilities, as well as generate grenade energy with Demolitionist. Now I told you guys I'm going full send with a grenade spam with this build, which is why I'm using 100 Resilience and 100 Discipline. This is going to allow my Thruster to come back very quickly, as well as my grenade to come back very quickly, paired with Demolitionist, Ionic Traces, Elemental Wells, and Heart of Inmost Light. And like I just said, Heart of Inmost Light is my exotic armor piece of choice for this build, and this is the most important piece of this whole build because this is what allows my grenades to come back faster and do more damage. And that's the whole point of this build, is to use my grenades for literally everything. Now moving on to the mods, I am using Elemental Ordnance, Seeking Wells, Elemental Charge, Bolstering Detonation, 2 stacks of Firepower, and 2 stacks of Bomber. Elemental Ordnance will allow me to spawn Arc Elemental Wells whenever I get Grenade Final Blows, which I'm going to be getting a ton of Grenade Final Blows. They'll track to me with Seeking Wells and make me become Charger Light because of Elemental Charge. Now Bolstering Detonation will generate class ability energy while doing damage with a grenade, which plays directly into Heart of Inmost Light because I'm able to use my Thruster more often, which will allow me to get my grenade back even faster. 2 stacks of Firepower will give me some grenade energy when I use my grenade while Charged Light, and double stacks of Bomber will allow me to generate even more grenade energy whenever I activate my class ability. So as you guys can see, all these mods and all my armor combinations and weapon choices are all geared towards getting my grenade back as much as possible, which is the entire point of this build because storm grenades are absolutely juiced. I mean, they do tons of damage, they can linger there now, they'll track enemies on the Titan with Touch of Thunder, they jolt enemies if you have the specific fragment on. I mean, these things are just absolutely nuts, and the fact that I'm able to spam them so often allows me to really feel like a lightning god, and it's very satisfying to see all these storm grenades just tracking everywhere, causing jolt, and it is just a really fun build. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you've tried this build. Let me know if you have your own little spin you want to put on it. I guess now it's time for me to figure out what I'm gonna do with the Hunter. But anyways, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Deuces.